Hey guys, today I'm going to make a video on the Ruger SR40C showing you guys how to do a quick tune-up job on it. These guns from the factory come with a pretty horrible trigger, to say the least, but these guns can actually be made into one of the finest shooting semi-autos I've ever fired. As you can see, the gun is unloaded, and let's go. The first thing we're going to do is disassemble the gun. I'm going to have to stop the video and kind of edit this together because I don't have anybody to hold the camera for me. But when we're done, you'll be happy you made it through my crappy video. And what we're going to focus on is we want to polish the pieces the best we can. But there's more to it than just polishing, and I'll show you more. We're going to have to completely disassemble the slide and disassemble part of the frame. So this is a little in-depth. If you aren't used to working on guns, or if you're just kind of a novice when it comes to this stuff, I would highly recommend that you bring it to your gunsmith or talk to somebody else, because, you know, I don't want to see you guys get hurt because you tried doing something that you're not capable of doing. Okay, next we're going to remove the striker itself. You got to be careful here because this little plunger has a spring behind it and it is compressed. So what we're going to do is just take our hand, push it forward while holding that plunger there. Sorry, I'm doing it one-handed here for you guys. But now this plunger will come right out. And then the rest of the striker assembly should slide right out of there too, as you can see there. Now this is going to come out, and that's pretty much the assembly for the slide to the extent that we need to take it down. I'm going to get set up to polish this and everything, and we'll be back in a minute. Okay, now you can see it's a part, the slide is basically completely disassembled except for the loaded chamber indicator and the rear sight. Now these obviously have no function or no effect on the function of the internals. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this piece here. It rides on the striker. So we're going to polish this piece. This plunger here we're going to polish. The striker we're going to polish the sear surface here. And my company is actually in the process of designing some titanium indicators for these, and they'll be a lot smoother than the gritty polymer that comes on there, and they'll look a lot nicer. So I'm getting a CNC machine, and hopefully tomorrow it'll all be set up, and once that's done we'll start working on those. Okay, we've got all our parts roughly cleaned up. All we used is some good old Hoppy's number 9 bore solvent. Just on a couple Q-tips, wiped it down. Now, to polish this stuff, we're going to be using flits and my Dremel tool that's sitting there in a pile because I'm moving from my old shop into my new shop and not everything is set up. Now that all of that is apart, we need to take the frame apart, and to do that we're going to take out basically the trigger set. We're going to pop these pins out on the side and the stuff will come out. Okay, now I just popped the 2 pins off that go right here. It's important to remember where these went, because if you look, there's a little indent in each of them. The one with the indent closer to the middle is the bottom one. Make sure they go back in the right holes. Now to disassemble the rest of it, you need this block and you got to raise it up, and there's going to be a pin right through that bottom hole. Be very careful, get it up there, use your punch and slide the pin through there, and the rest of this stuff will come out. Once you get that front block off, you're going to have to get the rest of this stuff off. You're going to go to the magazine disconnect here, and you're going to have to get it kind of centered, and I can't get it with this camera, but if you look down inside there, you're going to see the lower opening where it rides on that pin there. You're going to have to move it kind of halfway in between, and then that pin will push right through. You have to go out with the pin that's right below the serial number because it is a one-way pin. And once that's all out, you'll get this. One of the things we're going to focus on here is polishing this area right here because that contacts the side of the frame. When you look inside there, it's riding right along there. And so we want it as smooth as possible so that we can get a very nice smooth trigger pull. Because anytime it moves and it's gritty, you're going to feel it if you don't polish it good. Okay, now we pulled that all apart. You got to be careful because there's small parts in there. But now we're going to have to drive this little pin off, get the trigger off of it, and once this is all apart, then we can go to town polishing. So we're going to polish this outside piece here. We're going to polish the piece that's inside the trigger rubbing on there so that that's nice. We're going to do that on both sides. And then back here, we're going to polish very, very, very well where it engages the striker. Easiest way I've found to get this pin out if you don't have a special kind of vice block is I'm using my sander right now. It's actually missing the disc, but we're putting it in the guide rail here for where the square would go. Okay, now I've been polishing on this for a little while and it's hard to get the camera to focus just right here, but on mine you might be able to make out there that I've got a little bit of a burr. What we're going to do is we're going to take a jeweler's file and just tap off that burr. We don't want to take any more metal off. All we want to do is remove the burr. Guys, now pretty much all of my parts have been completely polished, but the one thing I'm going to work a little longer on is this back block here. The slide actually rides on that block, and so if we can get any sharp edges and polish off these two sides here where the slide rails ride, you'll just notice it that much nicer when you run the action. But I'm going to finish that up and I'm going to start putting everything back together. We polished inside of here. We've got, this is all polished on all the surfaces that are going to touch anything. You can see, maybe with my crappy camera, that it's a lot duller on the inside unpolished surface than this mirror finish on the outside. And we also polished the entire striker, because the striker's riding inside there. The smoother it is, the better it's going to be. It doesn't hurt anything to go a little above and beyond on the parts if you aren't quite sure, because in the end all it's going to do is continue to make it better. Hey, while we got everything apart, we're going to polish the feed ramp and the chamber on here too. The feed ramp is the most important because it's very rough there. I imagine the chamber is. I obviously can't get my finger inside there, but I'm sure it's pretty rough. Polishing that stuff isn't going to do us anything but help in the long run. Okay, now that we got everything polished and everything, I highly recommend you take out your owner's manual and look at the schematic when you put it back together, just to be safe. I mean, there's so many little parts and pieces there that are easy to not even realize they fell out and forget where they came from. So just to be safe and make sure that your gun is fully functional once it's back together, I highly recommend going off of this sheet. I'm going to put mine back together right now and we'll finish up the video and see how it improved. Okay guys, we got it all done, put back together. Everything is good. It functions properly. It's obviously still unloaded because we haven't had any ammo here to put in it, but just so you can see, the trigger pull weight was significantly decreased. I'd have to go pull my gauge out and see, but before, I don't think I did it on video, but the trigger pull weight was right around 9 pounds, and that was just from the factory. That's not shot a lot. I know these, they say they get better over time, but when the trigger's this bad, I mean, you got to take care of it yourself. I would estimate right now that the trigger pull weight is probably around 4 pounds. There's a little travel there, and there is still a little bit of plasticky feeling grittiness, and that's mainly coming from inside there where the plastic indicators rubbing on the plastic back plate. The other spot is that trigger is pretty tight up against the polymer frame there, and so you're probably getting some out of that too. There is a little bit of play there. That might be something that could be shimmed up with a shim kit if anybody makes one. I'm not sure if they do right now, but other than that, I mean, this is pretty much the cheapest and easiest way you can get yourself a halfway decent trigger on your Ruger SR40C. And so you guys can see right there, that is our piece of titanium rod, of our titanium rod that we're going to be using to make the new striker indicators. And I would also like to make a one-piece titanium guide rod set for it. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them. I've got quite an extensive history of these SR40s, working on them. I mean, once you get them done, keep playing with them. You can even polish on the plastic. I didn't do it on this one, but man, you can make this thing into a competition shooter that's going to outshoot all the SIGs you can find. Thanks for watching.